Salute Knicks Nation. The streets are buzzing. Let's break this down as the New York Knicks are in the Eastern Conference Finals starting Wednesday against the Indiana Pacers. Welcome to the stream preview. Part 1. We're going to go through my keys, matchups, predictions. Let's hear from you guys, the fan base, the most loyal fan base out here, as our Knicks continue to prove people wrong, and they get another shot to prove more people wrong in the Eastern Conference Finals. 4 wins away, baby. So the NBA Finals, all the conference finals are set, right? And let's talk about it as the Oklahoma City Thunder have eliminated the Denver Nuggets, and they will face off against some former Knicks, the Minnesota Timberwolves as well. Congratulations to all teams through to the Final Four, man. It feels good to finally be in here as a Knicks fan. Welcome in, everybody. Salute to you. Let's enjoy this. Tonight, we're going to go through a quick debrief on the Boston series. I'm going to give out my final series grades. I'm also going to tie a bow on that series and talk about all the matchups that the Knicks won that allowed them to advance. Because I said in my preview for that series, winning more matchups was the most key thing, and it's going to be satisfying to do that. And then we'll dive in to the conference final matchup in the East against the Indiana Pacers as well. Respect to the Indiana Pacers making the Eastern Conference Finals back-to-back years as well. They're building something out there, and the New York Knicks will have to have a hell of a series to stop them. And the city is behind New York. The media is hype. The fans are hype. And let's talk about it, guys. Tendrell, Jet Life for Life, Bob, great to see you in the building, and the many more coming through. The schedule is out. Obviously, it's a little different now. We're in the conference finals. There is no 2 days break between any games, man. It's basically a day between each game, and it's straight to the point, man. Oklahoma, man. They channeled the Knicks. They saw what the Knicks did in Game 6. They absolutely blew the Denver Nuggets out in the second half earlier today. I was rooting for the Nuggets personally, but right now, man, I'm obviously going to be watching that closely. I hope Minnesota can get it done, man. I think that would be amazing final storyline with the Knicks and the Timberwolves if they were to get through. Let us know your thoughts on that, guys. Are we all rooting for Minnesota? Are you guys not fussed? It's New York all the way, baby. Let's see. But Shea, inexperience. Oklahoma showed some inexperience throughout that series. Denver were depleted in some injuries, and they still forced Oklahoma to 7. Also, Oklahoma doesn't have much of a turnaround, man. Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals will start basically on Tuesday, fam, a day before the Knicks series. And so they're going to get straight to it. And Minnesota are in a great position. There will be a brand new champion as well. Top of this, guys, Brunson, Shea, Halliburton, or Ant-Man. There will be a new champion crown. And I love it, man. My honest thoughts are, I like this new wave. I'm just a fan that wants to see things change up because, the Stephs, LeBron, KD, Jimmy Butler, Giannis, those guys, some of them had a lot of success, some have had recent success, but, their days are passing, and it's a new wave coming through. I think the NBA is going to like this. I think Ant-Man, obviously Minnesota, back-to-back Western Conference Finals. And relating to our Knicks, something huge is obviously there's former Knicks on every single team. Indiana, we're going to be going up against Obi Toppin, fam. Oklahoma, Isaiah Hartenstein, right, took the bag and fled New York City thought it was for greener pastures. Let's see how it plays out. But the Knicks will have a chance if they can get to the finals and stop Isaiah from picking up a ring. And how could we forget Minnesota Timberwolves, fam? The Villanova single player to escape in the cat trade was Dante DiVincenzo. Julius Randle started the Knicks resurgence, former MIP as well, getting much respect around the NBA now. Julius Randle been absolutely balling out, right? As we put all this in perspective, fam, Keith Smith tweets out of the final four teams, the New York Knicks are basically the only franchise to have won a ring out of these four teams. And that is the new NBA now. Indiana never won a ring. Minnesota, never. Oklahoma City Thunder, never. They did win a chip in '79 as the Seattle Supersonics as well. So how could we forget about that, fam? But how did we get here? Let's dive in to the first segment of tonight's stream. Welcome in Anthony, Tendrell, Will, Mark Us. Great to see you. Mark US. Go New York, go New York, go. I feel the energy, Will, coming through. Anthony says, I'm going to take these East boys behind the woodshed after I'm done with OKC. Ant-Man, I want you to beat Oklahoma. Mos Def, Tendrell already says Knicks in 6. Got us hype. Quick little news update as well. Adam T is one of our big scouts with the New York Knicks. Give him a follow. Our Knicks scouts are doing work, right? Well, everyone's hype talking about our conference finals run now. The Knicks are still doing work as an organization and are in Chicago at the NBA Combine, hoping to find the next Deuce McBride, hoping to find the next Ariel Hukporti, hoping to find the next Mitchell Robinson, potentially in the second round. Look at all our scouts here that work for the Knicks, having a nice dinner with assistant GM Walt Perrin, looking at the talent, the new wave of talent. I'm going to have heaps of draft content coming through as well, because I got my eyes on a few steals that I think the Knicks could hopefully bring in. But that's a story for another day, baby. Why? Because we are in this race for the championship. And I'm confident. I'm really confident. And how did we get here? We obviously defeated the Boston Celtics, man. One of the most gratifying and satisfying series victories since I've been a fan for 35 plus years. As I promised, I'm going to bring up the matchups and tie a bow on this series. We took a lot of disrespect, a lot of shade from Boston fans, some neutrals as well, not giving us a shot. The media barely predicting the Knicks would take 1 or 2 games, but here we are, right? We are the last one standing after this epic matchup against traditional city rivals, 2 of the most traditional franchises in the NBA. Obviously, Tatum was a big story coming out of Game 4. And the uncertain future awaits the Boston Celtics. But look, they won their championship last year. And if this has taught us anything, you can't really expect that you're going to continue, creating a dynasty, because new challenges are coming up. New hungry Lions are coming up. And our New York Knicks took down the Boston Celtics. And so they've got a lot of question marks. But the matchups, guys, I said in my preview, the Knicks' best shot to win this series would be to win as many matchups as possible. And I've got the tick next to the players that I honestly feel won their matchup, were more impactful in the series. Let us know if you guys agree. But we're going to start with the captain, Jalen Brunson. We don't win games 1, game 2. Close the deal in game 4. Game 6 was phenomenal as well. Jalen Brunson won that matchup. It doesn't matter who guarded him. He was by far the most impactful player going up against Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday, is definitely a player that could get traded. He's 37, I believe. But yeah, Brunson dominated dominated that matchup in that series as well. Drew didn't really have a Drew Holiday game, I think, by his standards as well. The captain played solid defense. He led the team in enemy territory, taking games 1, game 2, and he led the troops to victory in this one. And so, Jalen Brunson, his legacy has grown to a whole nother level, man, putting to bed the narrative from Becky Hammond that we can't compete or win a title with a small player as your top dog. But Jalen Brunson, man, so proud. Next up, and we're going to be talking about this guy a whole lot tonight, Mikal Bridges, our starting shooting guard coming out of Villanova, the newest acquisition in the offseason, man. Mikal Bridges has played some of his best basketball over the last 6 games, man. And look, we don't win the series without Mikal Bridges, but in the nick of time, he has arrived to prove a lot of doubters wrong. Lockdown defense, something we didn't see much throughout the season. Admittedly, there were mitigating factors. He was obviously the point of attack defender most of the season, been put through the most ball screens throughout his career in one season. But he rose through adversity and, man, had an amazing series. And I think he was more impactful when push comes to shove versus Derek White. I think Mikal Bridges can get the W out of that matchup. What do you guys think? Lionel says, yes, we can get there. We need to reinforce our bench for next season, talking about the NBA draft coming up. Yep. Great to see you, Johnny. Let's talk Pacers in a minute. Tying a bow on the Boston series, man, just an amazing achievement. Job's not done, but job's not done. Next up, OG Anunoby. Jaylen Brown, got a lot of respect. What he did in Game 5, man. News has just come out that Jaylen Brown was playing with a partial meniscus tear. And so, respect to him. I did feel like Game 5 was basically a last effort, a last stand, where he just didn't want to go out on his home floor and he emptied the tank. And I think we saw that. I said it post-game after Game 5. Everyone was stressing. Everyone was panicking. I said, guys, we're going to close it out in 6. Game 5 was Boston, and specifically Jaylen Brown, basically just emptying their tank. But Jaylen Brown had a up and down series. He had an awful Game 4 when the New York Knicks ran riot late in the second half to win that game and go 3-1 up. That was Jaylen Brown's low point in the series. But for OG Anunoby, specifically, there wasn't a low point. There just wasn't. His consistency was excellent. Being physical, navigating the contests with Tatum. His heroic Game 1 was just unbelievable in the TD Garden, scoring 29 points. What a phenomenal series from OG Anunoby. Continues to raise that bar, and I think he was more impactful. Him and Jaylen Brown, OG was the most impactful in this series. Now, Karl-Anthony Towns, Jason Tatum, whether it's a wash, I don't think Cat won that matchup by any stretch, but Cat was obviously very impactful in Games 4 and Game 6. And Game 1 was excellent rebounding as well. Had his moments, so did Jason Tatum. Obviously, Tatum was epic part of the collapse in Games 1 and 2. So you could say that's a split. Josh Hart, Al Horford, right? Al Horford guarding him a lot, Luke Cornett sometimes. But yeah, Josh Hart, man, what can you say? A lot of doubt. His lows are low, his highs are unbelievably high. And his Game 6 was just unbelievable, triple-double. And joining Walt Clyde Frazier as the only other Knick since Walt to get a triple-double in a playoff game. And so Hart was unbelievable. He did his best to make them pay, when they sagged off. Game 5 was awful, but the team came correct. And he was much better at punishing them for leaving him wide open with the offensive rebounds, second chance points, and all of that. Josh Hart won his matchup in this series 100%. Now we talk about some unsung heroes now, which we're going to be talking about a lot coming up in the next series. But Deuce McBride. Deuce McBride was a guy who was so down in the Detroit series. He was a guy that, everyone was wondering, man, was it the leg injury? Was it something that was bothering him? Was it just the Detroit physical matchup? Going up against Malik Beasley and co, and Dennis Schroeder, having to chase those guys around. That was tough. But Deuce came correct in this Boston series. He was amazing in terms of, one, hitting down shots, knocking down the open shot. Terrific back to his hustle on D. Making Peyton Pritchard's impact less, and understanding that, you can't let him get loose. I think Peyton Pritchard really got loose for one game, which was a common theme for everyone, basically, game 5. But outside of that, Deuce McBride was unbelievable off our bench, giving us some much-needed scoring, consistent defense. Like I said, he looks fully healthy now, and he looks to be in a great rhythm. So look out, Indiana, for the Deuce train coming through. And Deuce is going to be amazing, I think, coming up in the next series. TJ McConnell, man, we know all about him, and we're going to be talking about him in a second. But last but not least, by any means, man, one of the biggest X factors coming into this series, Mitchell Robinson. Unbelievable. What else can you say? I'm about to bring up my series grades, but now's the time where you guys can throw your flowers in the chat for Mitchell Robinson. Yes, Kristaps Porzingis was not healthy. That's a shame for the Boston Celtics, and it was always going to be tough for them to win the series with KP not healthy. But what Mitch did, he was by far the most impactful reserve big, and that's including Luke Kornet. Kornet had probably 1, 2, 1.5 really, really good games. But outside of that, Mitchell Robinson was excellent in 3, 4 games, and super, super impactful as well. Basically, some of the best basketball Mitchell Robinson has played in his career, coming at the right time, and he can hold his head up high, man. Going through adversity, injuries last season, doubters as well, trade rumors, the longest tenured Knick, man, survived. Survival of the fittest. Mitchell Robinson, man, super impactful, and coming up next series, I can't wait to talk about that matchup. So yeah, there you have it, guys. I feel like the Knicks convincingly won 6 matchups in this series. You can debate it. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section as well. Replay squad. If you told me before the series when I did my preview that if the Knicks had won convincingly 6 of the matchups, I would have said we win the series, and that's exactly what happened. Ladies and gentlemen, we also, held a lot of these Celtics players to some of their lowest contributions on the season. Drew Holiday basically wasn't at his best. Pritchard, 6th man of the year in the NBA. He had, like I said, 1 really good game and maybe 1 decent game. But after that, he wasn't very impactful. Sam Hauser was injured. The Celtics did miss him. Obviously, KP dealing with the health concerns. Al Horford. I thought Al Horford probably had 1.5 good games. But yeah, he does look like a player that, does need to think about his future. Whether or not he retires, hangs him up, I don't know. But, I thought, like I said in the post game, the fact that Joe Mazzulla kept him out on the floor in the dying minutes of Game 6 kind of tells me that it might have been the final game that we see with Al Horford. But he's had a great career as well. But the Knicks advance, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to talk about the Pacers matchup. Salute to Mario. Let's go. Johnny says Mitch's Jaylen Brown defense in the corner will go down in Knicks history. I think that was sequence of the series, man. That's up there, no doubt. Mitchell Robinson scrambling, running, covering the court, both sides, weak side, strong side. Unbelievable closeout on Jaylen Brown on that one. Carlene and Jamie says, yo, Pacers, better watch out. Last year, we were broke down. Mitch was hurt. Randall was done. OG was out. Game 7, Hart was hurt as well. We got this. I love it. Love the confidence coming through. And I think it's going to be a hell of a series. Carlene and Jamie, I think it's going to be more closer than I feel than last series even as well. And just in terms of the way we match up. Now, just to conclude the first segment, my series grades. Now, we went through the matchups. Let's bring up the grades for the series. I think let's start with the coach. Man, let's start with the coach, Tom Thibodeau. What a series. What a series from Thibodeau. Against all odds, against a lot of, Knicks fans' predictions even, against some hope. A lot of people didn't give us a chance. But Tom Thibodeau got this team to get 4 wins. And they deserve those wins over the Boston Celtics, the reigning champions. A defensive specialist, Tom Thibodeau, will go down in history as one of the greatest defensive minds out here. This isn't the greatest defensive personnel teams, but Tom Thibodeau formulated a plan, a scheme to get the best out of these guys, and that he did. Mikal Bridges, got him in the right matchups. He could be most impactful offensively to close games out as well. Those were 2 of the key adjustments. Switching with Karl-Anthony Towns being impactful defensively on the perimeter as a mobile big, shuffling his feet, staying in front of his man, contesting a lot of Jason Tatum threes. We won this series because of Game 1 and Game 2, but obviously Game 4 and Game 6 were big time as well. But yeah, Tibbs' adjustments, I think, are going to be under the microscope again next series, because best believe there's pressure still, having lost to Indiana last season and, having the chance to get to the NBA final. And that'll be Tibbs' greatest achievement as an NBA coach, man. He is hungry. Joe Mazzulla gave him his props in the post-game, said he's a basketball lifer and he deserves this. And he's happy for Thibodeau. So I'm going to give Thibodeau an A. It wasn't perfect. That's why he's not getting the A+. There's some things that I would have liked to see adjusted with some double big lineups more frequently. We were down by 20 points, 14 points, in 3 of the games. Rotation-wise, I feel like, expanding the rotation a little bit, playing more of the double big lineups, getting Mitch and Deuce in there in Game 5 would have been a better adjustment. But I mean, he got the job done, and Tom Thibodeau deserves an A. This is one of his bigger achievements, I think, in his career, but the job is not done yet. Mikal Bridges, going from left to right. Mikal Bridges, I'll give him an A-. His highs were amazing, super high. There was a couple of games where he was down, but you're going to have that, over a 6-game, hard-fought series. But I thought Mikal Bridges played his best basketball as a New York Knick, and I feel pretty confident we would have won if you told me Mikal Bridges is an A- for the series, because that means that he did his job, played amazing defense, he gave us scoring, and like I said, he won his matchup against Derek White. OG, I'll give A- as well. Just amazing consistency. The 29 points early in the series. The closeout was excellent. His closeout game. What a statement from OG Anunoby. Guarding Tatum, fighting through switches, all of that. Just a monster on defense. So A- for the 2 wing stops. The captain, Jalen Brunson, I'm going to give him an A. As the leader of the team, he led this team to a series victory. I think this is the greatest achievement in Brunson's NBA career so far as a leader. Remember in Dallas, he was the second to Luka and had his battles getting to the Western Conference Finals. But this is a series where Jalen Brunson led this team to a 4-2 victory. Two clutch performances on the road to close Boston out. Two of the greatest playoff comebacks that'll go down in NBA history, led by Brunson, closing them out with the mid-range, the step backs, the crossovers. We've seen it all, man. Just when you thought after Detroit he couldn't go to another level, he went to that next level and closed out the reigning champions. Next up, Cat. I'll give Cat B+. Again, ups and downs, highs, lows. The lows were quite low. I thought Game 5 was probably the worst playoff game of Cat's career. The team got together. Reports players only, get together, chill session at the practice facility in Tarrytown. After Game 5, the Knicks came together and they aired out some of the things that they didn't like from Game 5. The coverage defensively wasn't acceptable, and Cat sort of, had his lapses defensively throughout the series, but I thought he was very impactful. Game 6 was the super high, dominant, rebounded really well in Boston early in the series. Has grown a lot as a player, asked to do a lot of things outside of his comfort zone, such as switching, defending out on the perimeter, a lot of things that Minnesota didn't care to really, invest in a lot. They were just going to get Rudy Gobert and play Cat at the 4. But here we are, Karl Anthony Towns with the Knicks, showing his versatility, switching his feet, rebounding like a beast. We just have to get those threes going, man. I think if he was more dynamic offensively, Cat would have got an A. But we need to unlock Cat going into that next series. We'll talk about that in the next segment. And then at the start, last but not least, I feel like Josh Hart deserves an A, equal to Brunson. Because think about this, right? Hart is a guy that's kind of working at a disadvantage because he's, the guy that's overlooked. He's left open. He's having to make key decisions with the basketball. He's having to constantly move the defense around and work around that to try to give the starting 5 an advantage despite the lack of floor spacing. But he killed them. He killed them defensively. He killed them on the glass. He killed them with the hustle, all the heart and energy he brought to the table as well. So Josh Hart gets the A for that. And ticking over to the bench now, as Lionel in the chat says, this is our revenge series coming up. Tendrell says that Deuce chase down block was up there with play of the series. I like that. Yeah, the Deuce block was insane. Salute old head. Salute Ron. And last but not least, as we tie that bow on the Boston series now, I thought Deuce McBride deserves an A-. So does Mitch. They both brought their A games to this series. Compared to Detroit, they went from strength to strength. And despite the Knicks only running a 7-man rotation to close this series, those guys were two of the best players in the series in terms of their role. They were stars in their roles, impactful off the bench with scoring, with defense, staying in it, staying locked in, staying out of foul trouble as well. Overcoming their, injuries and minutes restrictions earlier, all of that, man. A- to both. Salute to them. And one of the bigger concerns coming out of the series is obviously the rest of the bench. Cameron Payne, we all know his strengths, what he brings to the table. But yeah, I didn't think Cam Payne had a very good series at all. In fact, it was below average. So I'm going to give Cam Payne a C. He didn't get many minutes, but that's obviously because he wasn't able to make as much of an impact. Right. So, moving over now to why we all came here and why we're all Knicks fans is because we are hyped to go all the way now. Eastern Conference Finals. Congrats to Indiana for getting there back-to-back years. And now we dive into the preview, part 1. Guys, the matchups, the keys, the X factors, and a wild card. as well. We did this with the Boston series. We're doing it again. Let us know your thoughts on this, guys. Before I give you, the tale of the tape, just to, put a shine over the regular season, the New York Knicks won the season series 2-1. It's key to note, all 3 games were very early in the season. One came on October 26. Basically, I think it was the Knicks' set 3rd or 4th game of the season. They had a blowout victory. Then the 2 sides faced off in November, and Indiana had a blowout win as well in that one. And then they played each other again on February 12, where the New York Knicks had a big win as well in that one, winning the season series 2-1. Karl Anthony Towns put up 40 points in the most recent win. We're going to take a look at those numbers in a second. But a lot of people are talking about this series being close. And I would agree. I think attrition, fatigue could creep in. We're at a whole new stage where it's not just player versus player, talent versus talent. It's a lot of things now. The stakes are higher. Players have gone through 2 big battles. Well, the Knicks have. The Pacers have defeated. Obviously, they defeated the Cleveland Cavaliers, and then before that, they defeated, I believe it was the Miami Heat. And so, with Indiana, I mean, they're coming in full of confidence. They're the more rested team, despite the Knicks getting 4 days rest. I think that'll be a big factor coming into this series. However, I still give the Knicks the edge in this series. Taking off my orange and blue cap, I still believe the Knicks are the better team in this one, but anything can happen. I think it's going to be close enough where Indiana will definitely have a chance to get back-to-back series wins, but I'm picking the Knicks. I will reveal my prediction a bit later. But first up, let's take a look at the most recent game between the 2 teams, February 12. Back then, the New York Knicks won 128-115. And what stood out to me, guys, Karl Anthony Towns scored like a grown man, 40 points, right? He was plus 14 on 14 of 23 shooting, man, 3 of 8 from downtown. When was the last time Karl Anthony Towns, guys, got 8 shots up from 3? We have to go a long way back, man. And the Knicks, obviously, this could be a big factor in the series. Spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about that. With the Knicks offense getting potentially unlocked, right? Let's be real. Boston's defense is better than Indiana's defense, right? Indiana are very strong offensively, but I think this is the chance that the Knicks can really unlock the blueprint of our offense, which is 5-out looks, spacing, all of that. Cat got to the line 9 times. He got 9 of 9. True shooting percentage, 74%. Absolute beast. Man, absolute beast. Jalen Brunson, quiet night. Josh Hart gave us a 30-piece as well, plus 15, a team high. Josh Hart was 12 of 16, man, getting up and down. He got to the line 7 times as well. The Knicks won the boards, guys. The column on the right, the Knicks won the offensive, defensive boards. 37 assists. Guys, unbelievable. That shows you what this offense is capable of, man, with the ball movement. Indiana had 32 assists. The New York Knicks with 37. The Pacers had more steals, blocks, more turnovers. Won the turnovers, less turnovers. The New York Knicks, though, won the fast break points. Right, won the points in the paint. Let that sink in. So we can hang with this team playing at fast pace. So that is really key. But yeah, 40-point game from Towns. That was probably the height of the season for Cat offensively. shooting 3 of 8 from downtown, 9 of 9 from the stripe, plus 14 as well. That's key, but we won the glass as well. Also, let's take it back to the first win of the season. Back on October 26. What got it done for the Knicks on this one was balanced scoring. Ladies and gentlemen, look at that starting lineup. 26 points for JB, 20 points for Hart, 21 for Cat, 14 for OG, 21 points for Mikal Bridges. Almost every single starter scored 20 points. All of them were in double digits as well. We got some scoring off our bench too, with Deuce with 8, Campaign with 7 as well. Familiar theme, guys. The Knicks won the rebounding again, 43-33. Won the offensive glass, defensive glass as well. But the Indiana Pacers had more assists in this one. But the Knicks pulled out the 123-98 victory. They shot the lights out, fam. Mikal was 2 of 3 from downtown. Cat was 2 of 2 from downtown. And Jalen Brunson was 3 of 5 from downtown. So that's a familiar theme, ain't it, guys? The Knicks can get easy looks. The Knicks can get open looks from downtown against Indiana, right? Hey, everyone wants to talk about Indiana can run you out of the gym. They can play fast. Absolutely they can. They can punish you. But think that that's not going to potentially hurt you the other side, right? If you want to play fast, hey, the Knicks can leak out. The Knicks can get easy buckets that way as well. These guys are human, man. They're not going to be able to run for 48 minutes and stop the Knicks transition as well. OG likes to leak out. Cat can get open threes, as we've seen now in these 2 victories. Yeah, I think Indiana have tightened their defense a little since then, since January 1st. They are a top 10 offense, top 10 defense. We look at these 2 wins, the Knicks clearly have success with rebounding, with shooting, taking care of the ball, and more assists as well. So those are the 2 wins. Now let's take a look at the game in the middle where the New York Knicks lost. This was in November. So still very early in the season. This was like after the October win. There's some outliers that I'm going to look at. So this is the box score from Indiana on the game that they beat us. The lone game that they beat us. Benedict Mathurin, man, had 38 points. Tyrese Halliburton had 35 points. Miles Turner had 26. Right, that's unacceptable. And to me, I think that's more of an outlier. Right, I'm not trying to take away anything from the Indiana Pacers, but if the Knicks allow this to happen in a playoff game, then something hella would have gone wrong. There's no way they're giving up 38 points to a Benedict Mathurin whilst giving up 26 points to Turner and 35 points to Tyrese Halliburton. The Knicks defense has just come correct a lot more since then, especially looking at the Boston series. And then you look at their bench. You had Jarris Walker, TJ McConnell. Even so, in this loss, the Knicks still won the rebounding as well. So all 3 games, the Knicks won the rebounding head-to-head for the series, winning 2-1 as well. The Knicks also won the points in the paint in this game as well. So that's a familiar theme, man. Could we see more double big lineups with the New York Knicks, given the fact that we've won the rebounding in every single game and we win the points in the paint? Even the game that the New York Knicks lost. Look how the pacemakers shot. 7 of 9 from downtown, from Benedict Mathurin. Tyrese Halliburton shot 4 of 10 from downtown and got to the line 11 times, 9 of 11 as well. Miles Turner shot 5 of 8. Man, our perimeter defense stunk that night. And obviously, I feel like this is repeatable on this level. On this level, it's going to be playoff defense, intensity. They might get their open looks in transition, but I don't expect them to be able to shoot the lights out like this, in more than one game in a series versus the New York Knicks. So that's some positive takeaways. The negatives are that the Pacers are capable. The negative is that the Pacers are capable of lighting you up. You know, if they get open looks, they could get hot. They could get hot, but 1 game, 2 games perhaps, they're going to need balanced scoring, in my opinion, to defeat the New York Knicks. And look, Benedict Mathurin is going to be a key wild card, I think, for them, X factor. You know, the Knicks have got to account for Siakam, Turner. Obviously, Nemhard, Neesmith didn't play in this one. Ben Shepherd had to play a lot. But yeah, Mathurin's a guy that can get crazy. You know, he's a rough rider. He got into it with DeAndre Hunter. He's a guy that could stir up some confrontations throughout this series, man. There's going to be plenty of confrontations. So yeah, just to quickly recap, the most recent game back, let me pull up the most recent game, Feb 12, where the New York Knicks defeated the Pacers 128-116. This is the most recent matchup. And what I like is obviously that we didn't need a Jalen Brunson, you know, masterpiece. Brunson only gave us 23 minutes, 8 points, right? Struggle. I don't know if this is the game specifically that Brunson picked up an injury. It's possible. My memory is a bit hazy. Maybe it was just a blowout that Brunson didn't play for the rest of the game. Maybe it was foul trouble. Yeah, he did finish with 5 fouls. So it does look like it was a foul trouble game. But we have other guys that could step up. Precious Achiuwa played 33 minutes that game, gave us 9 points as well on 3 of 8 shooting. But Cat was a beast in that one. So yeah, you know, the lone shot blocker on the Indiana Pacers is Miles Turner. And both guys can pull each other out of the paint, right? So with that said, guys, my first key matchup, my biggest key matchup of this series personally is the big man, Karl-Anthony Towns versus Miles Turner as well. Miles Turner's having a hell of a postseason so far. And with Karl-Anthony Towns, I don't think we've seen the best of him yet offensively and defensively. You know, he might surprise us and take his game to another level. So that's my key matchup for the series. Obviously, the consensus is going to say, you know, Brunson, Halliburton, and I could get down with that. But I want to do something different. I feel like the keys to maybe separating this series, the winner and the loser, might come down to Karl-Anthony Towns versus Miles Turner. Fam, let us know what you think. Mario says, yeah, Cat will be better. Most def. You know, both sort of similar players. Both can anchor the paint, rebound, but also stretch you out. You know, we looked at the success Cat had with a 40-piece. You know, if Miles Turner comes out of the paint, who else have they got, man? It could be open layup lines for Jalen Brunson. It could be open drives for OG Anunoby and Josh Hart. If Turner can come out of the paint. Now, we start to talk about some cross-matching, guys, because maybe they want to try to, you know, replicate what Boston did with Cat and maybe put a wing on Cat. I got a feeling that they might try to put Pascal Siakam on Cat and try to maybe put Miles Turner as that roving big man against Josh Hart. But if that's the case, I think the Knicks will be prepared. The Knicks will be ready for that. We dealt with that in the last series. And I do think that if they do want to try to have Miles Turner, you know, follow Hart and try to be that guy to sag off Hart, they'll try to put Siakam maybe on Cat, and then maybe Neesmith can go to OG. Maybe Nemhard, then will, you know, the Knicks will get the advantage. I think if Brunson finds Nemhard on him, Brunson is going to be able to eat like he did last series against Nemhard last year. I think Neesmith is the better defender on the Indiana Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton, they might try to hide him on Josh Hart a little, maybe, but I do think he probably guards Mikal Bridges. just because I don't really feel there's any other favourable matchup for Indiana. I mean, you can't really put Halliburton on OG. He'll post him up. You can't put him on Cat. He'll get posted up. It'll either be Hart or it'll be Mikal Bridges that Halliburton will try to hide on. But I do think they'll ideally try to start Neesmith guarding Brunson. So my big key matchup is Cat versus Miles Turner, man. And Cat's had success with his best offensive game back on Feb 12, fam. So that's big time. And I think the rebounding is going to be key, man. We'll talk about Mitchell Robinson in a second. But the next thing I want to talk about is X factors, right? Who's my X factor for this series on the Knicks, and who's going to be the X factor for Indiana? And I'm going to go with Brooklyn Bridges, Mikal Bridges, now on the New York Knicks, right? What a series Mikal Bridges had versus Boston. He's playing his best ball of the series, and I think the New York Knicks will need basically a follow-up for the Knicks to win this series from Mikal Bridges, right? He's going to be pivotal to slowing Indiana down, right? They killed Cleveland, and Cleveland have a lot of guards that can run, but Mikal Bridges defensively was on point throughout the Boston series, and he's going to be needing to shut down Halliburton, navigate a lot of ball screens. He's going to have to make sure he doesn't lose the guy in transition. He's going to have to be the guy that gets back on transition quicker than anybody. He's the Iron Man for a reason. Mikal Bridges, man, if he shows up, I think the Knicks can win this series and should win this series. Let us know your thoughts on that. On the Pacers side of things, we know this guy familiar, Andrew Nembhard. He's going to be my X factor for Indiana. He's playing great ball. He's surging in his career. He's a two-way player. He's much stronger offensively. I think he's capable defensively, but he's not no great defender or anything like that. But Andrew Nembhard is a ball handler that can run the offense a little. He can shoot you from mid-range. He can shoot from the logo, like we saw in Game 3 last year when he killed us with that backbreaker. He killed Cleveland as well. He's the guy to look out for, is Andrew Nembhard, fam. Because we're seeing it. Halliburton can have his dips, man. He can score 30, then the next game he can give you a donut. Literally, Halliburton had a 0-point game, earlier. I think it was actually this season, let me bring it up. The first game of the season that the New York Knicks won, I think it was Halliburton that was it the first game that the Knicks won? Yes, it was. I don't have the graphic, but yeah, the Pacers box score. I think it was Halliburton that had the donut in the first win. And there was a lot of talk about Halliburton, slow start to the season, all of that. But yeah, basically Halliburton, he needs to be really consistent. We know Brunson is consistent. We know Brunson can close games out, all of that. But the Pacers' strength will be their depth. They'll try to get balanced contributions from all of their guys so that it takes the load off of Halliburton. Because, yeah, Tyrese can take over games late at times. He can hit a big shot. But I think the Pacers are going to need, 25 points a night consistently for Halliburton to win this series. And that's a lot of pressure on him because then he can turn it up on defense. We've seen it. The Knicks can turn swarming defense with Mitchell Robinson, double big lineups, Deuce McBride out there, Mikal Bridges, OG. I'm confident that the Knicks can slow Indiana down more than Cleveland can, obviously. Cleveland had a hobble Garland, undersized Spider Mitchell. The Knicks got size. The Knicks got length. They've got perimeter defense as well. So, yeah, I think Halliburton's going to have a great scoring series. And if he doesn't, then the pendulum will swing to Nembhard. I think Andrew Nembhard is going to have a great scoring series as well. So he's my X factor for Indiana. You can't lose him on the shooting. He's the equivalent to Derek White. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got to treat him like Derek White. Don't let him get loose in transition. Don't let him kick the ball out to the shooters, and don't let him receive the kickouts either. So I'm giving that assignment to Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges. They're going to have to follow him around. Probably Mikal, because you want Josh Hart ready for the rebounds. You want Josh Hart not following Nembhard around all over the perimeter, because you want Josh Hart crashing the glass. So, look, ideally, Hart's probably going to guard maybe Siakam a little bit. Who knows? You want Hart there so that he can do his bread and butter, which is swallow up the rebounds. Great point from my man, David M. Always on time, always on point. David says we didn't have Mitch for that game either. 100%, just like the Boston series, we didn't have Mitch for any of these games against Indiana, fam. Mitch returned late February, early March, and so, he missed this series, and so that's going to be super key coming in. So, Mitch could be another X factor in this one. Brightest future, says Kat. Johnny says, I want to see Bronson grilling and eating Halliburger. You and me both, fam. It's going to be fun. The WWE rivalry reignited. Reggie, Patrick Ewing in the building. It's going to be Reggie Miller on the call as TNT have their final series completely. Final NBA playoff series before TNT turns off the lights, basically. It's going to be Shaq. It's going to be Kenny. It's going to be Chuck. It's going to be EJ, giving their thoughts halftime, all of that, ladies and gentlemen. And for the Rockets to get to the NBA Finals, man, what an amazing set of storylines coming in. Let's talk about some other things. Before we get to the wild card, let's look at Deuce McBride, TJ McConnell, man. That's one thing where I can say, without looking at the film from last year, I think TJ McConnell, he was super impactful. He killed the Knicks. TJ McConnell has been a Knick killer for a minute. And TJ McConnell, Deuce McBride coming in, that's a great matchup. TJ McConnell is going to try to come in and slow down Brunson at times as well. I think that's sort of the second, third option to guard Brunson. He gives up size, but he's going to try to pick up Brunson full court, try to pick him up half court, and just make it difficult, try to see him down. But on the other side, TJ McConnell can push the break. He can make sure the Knicks get killed in transition by finding the open shooters and really leaking out as well. He's that energizer bunny that the Knicks have to make sure that they've got a body on him at all times, man. I'm looking at Deuce McBride to have another hell of a series. We look at some wild cards now, guys. What are your thoughts on the Knicks bench? What should Thibodeau do? Because Cameron Payne has earned the wild card for me, right? Here's why. He's one of the freshest players on the Knicks roster, right? Yeah, I mentioned before, man, mileage, minutes, they're gonna factor into this series. And you need a guy that can be fast. You need a guy that can pressure their guards a little bit, push the break if Brunson's gassed. This could be a campaign series. I know he struggled a lot in most of the first two series. Obviously had a hell of a game in game one against Detroit. But this could be Campaign's time to seize this opportunity. Campaign is a guy that is fresh, hasn't played many minutes, and we need pace. We need pace against the Indiana Pacers. We don't have as many guys that can run up and down, at the speed of light. And so, I don't know. He might factor in not much. He might factor in a lot. But I think he deserves to be a wild card in this series. Because I don't know if Tom Thibodeau can run a 7-man rotation this whole series. Like, in my opinion, if I had a choice, I think we need to go 8. We need to go 8, 8.5, 9. You know, obviously you see how it plays out, you see how it looks, and all of that. So let's see how it plays out, fam, as well. Just keep it chill in the chat. Let everyone have their say. I'm seeing a lot of spamming in the chat, fam, so I'm just going to have to put you in a quick timeout. Have your say, but don't spam the chat, please. Yeah, with that said, I think Campaign, maybe Shamit, maybe Delon Wright, maybe Precious Achua. I think you can make a case for all of these guys. So yeah, I'm happy to extend that wild card for whoever's going to be that 8th man, whether it's Payne, Shamit, Precious Achua, or Delon Wright. You know, we could see any of these guys, but I hope Tibbs is listening right now. Thibodeau, I gave you an A for the Boston series. You know, you got to treat this with most importance because the first 2 games could decide the series, and the Indiana Pacers are going to come out. They're going to try to run. They are going to be fresh as well, maybe even a little rusty. In terms of their situational guys, they got Ben Shepherd, who's been playing a little bit throughout this postseason. So don't be surprised if Carlisle, you know, throws Ben Shepherd out there. And you've got Jarris Walker, who's obviously reserve big as well. Some of my concerns over the bench, I don't know how we match up with Obi. It could be a Precious assignment. With Landry Shamet, you know, I would like to get Landry some minutes so that we can get some shooting and some scoring off the bench. But if Deuce is shooting it well, the starters are going to be playing heavy minutes. I don't know if Tibbs is going to try to get that 8th guy in there, man. But if it's size, we need a matchup for Obi, maybe for Thomas Bryant. You know, if Mitch is in foul trouble or Cat's foul trouble, don't be surprised. We did see a little bit of Precious Achua throughout the Boston series, throughout the Hacker Mitch situation. So if I'm to guess who's the 8th guy, I would probably lean towards Precious at this juncture in terms of what Tibbs is thinking. Let us know what you guys think. Tendrell says Knicks run a 7-man rotation in the playoffs. Yeah, that's a concern. You know, you guys look at the Pacers, they can go deep. You know, Ben Shepherd's capable of playing minutes, 10, 15. Jarris Walker will play as well. So they can go 8, 9, 10 deep in terms of players Carlisle trusts. Now, we say that now, but you know, after game 1, he might, you know, have to shorten the leash because the Knicks might have a blowout win, you know, and our defense is suffocating, and you know, Carlisle might need to reassess things. I've always said you can't always play too many guys in the playoffs, especially if you're up against a great team. But the Knicks will need to be great. The Knicks will need to be dominant in the first part of the series to show that, hey, you know, you can't be playing Obi 20 minutes in this one. We're going to kill you with those minutes. You know, you can't be playing Ben Shepherd in this series. So the more matchups the Knicks can win early, I think we'll gain the advantage. But look, Shamet, he's been shaky, man. He's been up and down. You know, theoretically, the shooting is something that you would like to see, but sometimes that just isn't always the case, man. Sometimes it's just the other side of the ball just kills you. You know, there's a lot of threats on Indiana. You know, Landry's going to have to play great defense and make sure that he sticks to his man, I think, as well. Ideally, I want to keep Mikal Bridges' minutes down a little bit as well. You know, I know he's going to have to carry the load a lot defensively after such a tough series as well. King says no one thinks Campaign can be a good player because he cannot defend. I think that's what's been the biggest struggle with Campaign. You know, obviously shot selection as well. He's not doing his job in terms of running the offense. You know, he's been a guy that's been too shaky, too erratic. Even when he gets one open look from downtown, he jacks up the shot with like 16 seconds on the clock. He's not even looking to run set anybody up. He's not even looking to post anybody up. And so that's a concern. But I do think he could be a wild card because, I'm not confident with a 7-man rotation, man. Indiana have got depth. They've got the pace, and they've got guys that can shoot, and they've got guys that they can trust. TJ McConnell, Benedict Mathurin coming off the bench that's a very good backcourt, a reserve backcourt. Front court, I'm not really gonna hype those guys up too much. Thomas Bryant, Obi, those guys can be liabilities at times. The Knicks should try to capitalize on the front court off the bench, especially with Michie out there having a dominant series against the Boston Seas and playing his best basketball, of his career. And so now's the time to come to predictions, ladies and gentlemen, and talking about where I could see each team, getting their success. I'll start with Pacers. Obviously, the Knicks should not be taking the Indiana Pacers lightly. The fans should not be taking them lightly, and I don't think anybody is taking them lightly. Especially after what we've seen, them do to Cleveland. I think they do deserve the respect. If they were to get through the NBA Finals, they would deserve that because, they have gone through the New York Knicks, and they have, been in a situation where they've done it 2 years in a row. The Knicks will have revenge on their mind, but staying with the Pacers for a second, I think they've got more guys that their coach can trust, right? So I think it goes back to the depth. But again, that's something that the Knicks could try to get the advantage early in the series, and then maybe Carlisle starts to shrink that rotation. We'll see. But if TJ McConnell, Mathurin, Obi, and Bryant start to look really good in their bench minutes, then Carlisle will continue. He'll continue with that. Obi, you know what he's going to do, man. Obi's game. He likes to leak out. He likes to pull up from three. Don't leave him open. He likes to drive, fake, head fake, run him off the perimeter. Thomas Bryant, not really worried about, more of an old school big. He can pull a few rebounds down. He's not too much of an intimidator to me. Offensively limited. But yeah, Benedict Mathurin is going to be a guy that we need to make sure that he doesn't get loose. TJ McConnell, I'm not worried about offensively. But with the starting five, I think the starting five is quite well balanced. But they don't have that go-to dominant scorer, I think, game to game, like a Brunson, like a Karl Anthony Towns. What they're going to do is they're going to rely on pace. They're going to rely on, running the Knicks down, and they're going to rely on ball movement, drive kickouts. They're going to rely on, transition baskets as well, and punishing the Knicks' transition defense. But guess what? If they can't get the rebound, they're not going to be able to get out in transition as well. With Hart crashing the glass, with Cat dominant on the glass as well, Miles Turner is the key to Indiana. He's going to have to rebound like he's going to have career great rebounding numbers, in my opinion. Thibodeau is going to try to emphasize the rebounding in this series. Pascal Siakam, he's going to have to definitely rebound strongly as well. So a lot of responsibility on the big men for their backcourt. Like I said it before, they're going to need 25 points a night from Tyrese Halliburton. I feel right. If the Knicks keep Halliburton quiet scoring, that's great, because the other guys are going to be sort of up and down. Nembhard might get loose a few games, but I think the Knicks will be in pole position to win 4 games first before Indiana get to 4 games. Right. If they're all getting loose, Halliburton, Nembhard, Neesmith, Turner, and Siakam, they're all scoring 20, 25. The Knicks are not doing their job defensively, right? You have to pick your matchups and make sure that you're winning more of the starting 5 matchups, right? So that's the keys for the Indiana Pacers, fam. But one thing I will say just before we go to the Knicks, I do think this whole Pacers are rested, got more depth, they play fast, and they're going to run the Knicks out of the gym. I think that's a bit too overstated, in my opinion. It's definitely going to be a factor, and it definitely could be something that can win Indiana a game or two. However, I don't really feel like it's going to be overbearing for the Knicks to overcome. I don't think it's going to be a case of the Pacers are just going to run the Knicks out of the gym, 4 wins. It's just not going to happen. This is playoff basketball. The Knicks are too savvy for that. The Knicks have got experience, and they know they're coming off a really, really tough battle test series in which Boston tested every part of the Knicks defense, from shooters, transition, isolation, stars. The Knicks did it all. They guarded everybody. So I don't think this Pacers offense is going to really worry the Knicks to the degree that the Boston series did. Now, it's definitely something to respect and pay attention to, but let's see how it plays out, guys. I might be completely wrong. We'll see. We'll see how game one plays out. Now, over to the New York Knicks. Why specifically I feel like the Knicks should be favorites in this series? Slight favorites. I feel like the Knicks starting five. I feel like there's scoring reliability in the clutch. Now, not taking away from some of the big moments the Indiana guys have had. Halliburton's had some clutch moments late and some big rebounds against Cleveland. But if you didn't see that Boston series and see that the Knicks have got closers, then you've been living under a rock, man. The Knicks can close games out with the best of them, with hustle plays like Hart, Cat, Brunson, obviously Mikal Bridges going to work in the isolation, getting downhill. It'll be interesting to see what Indiana do, man. Miles Turner, going to be in his drop coverage. Can Mikal Bridges expose that? Cat down low, someone's going to have to guard him. I think the Knicks have got go-to options down the stretch, but the game has to be close. The game has to be close for it to get to that point. Now, if we look at the start of the games, the New York Knicks transition defense, I think, has shown a lot of positive signs after Game 6. Game 4 was excellent against Boston. Game 6, they showed what they're capable of doing, man, when they're locked in. Maybe you guys didn't see it, but in the Hoop Collective pod, reaction pod with Brian Windhorst and Tim Bontemps, speaking, Tim Bontemps said, hearing from a coach scout in the building told him that the Knicks didn't miss an assignment. The Knicks did not miss a rotation in Game 6. They were locked in as well. And obviously there was no Jason Tatum, but I feel like that's more of what this Pacers team is going to offer the New York Knicks in terms of balanced guys and ball movement. The Knicks show that they're capable of being locked in and winning those defensive assignments with the 2 defensive wings. Hell, you want to say 3 defensive guys with Josh Hart as well. And for the New York Knicks, outside of that, the big men. I think Knicks can get a clear advantage with the big men department, the rebounding as well. So that's going to be key to keeping Indiana off the ball, slowing down the pace, controlling the flow of games, right? We all see how games can swing quickly in the Boston series, guys. When the Knicks got up games, they were down 20, they came back. We all see how quickly things can swing. Well, this Indiana series, man, things can swing real quick. If the Knicks miss a few assignments, they could be down 9 in the blink of an eye. So rebounding is going to be key, controlling the glass, control the pace, and executing in the half court as well. The wild card for Tibbs may be the double big lineups. I see a lot of people saying now that Indiana want the Knicks to play those double big lineups because they're going to get out and run. But it's twofold. The double big lineups, you don't want to wish upon that because until you see it, it's tough. It's tough to get shots with Mitchell Robinson hounding you and protecting the cup as well. They're going to need the post-ups of Pascal Siakam kicking out to the shooters. I think Indiana are going to have to rely on a lot of outside shots, right? Maybe some Miles Turner tip-backs, put-backs. Cat can miss his, seeing the ball, seeing the man sometimes. Turner is good at those tip-backs, put-backs as well, and the tip-outs. But OG Anunoby on Siakam, that's another, I think, favourable matchup for the Knicks, in my opinion. Last year, how did Indiana win Game 7? No OG. With respect to Precious Achiuwa, man, that was one of the worst games I've seen Precious play. I don't even want to look at that film again. Precious Achiuwa got killed by Pascal Siakam in Game 7. And obviously with no OG Anunoby, man, that was the biggest difference maker in that one. So Pascal, you're going to have to deal with a healthy OG Anunoby now, one of the best defensive players in the league. Slow down Tatum, slow down Brown. He's going to have his eyes set on slowing down Pascal Siakam now. Those two know each other very well, former teammates in the six. And I think that OG Anunoby is going to feel more comfortable, man. He knows his tendencies. He knows where Siakam's going to have, where he likes to go to. There's film from last year's series. There's just a lot of things that the Knicks can look at and clean up, I think, from Indiana's last season victory, right? A lot's been made about the Knicks being banged up in that series, and obviously I don't really want to talk about that a lot, but yeah, it was absolutely true. The Pacers defeated a Knicks team that had no Randall, it had no Bogdanovic, no Mitchell Robinson, and in Game 7, a hobbled OG. Well, no OG. No OG after Game 2. He tried to return for Game 7. Hart, Game 7, tore his abdominal, and Brunson broke his hand in Game 7 as well. So, to wrap it all up, basically, I feel like the Pacers deserve to be where they are. They're a threat. They are stronger than they were last year, with Benedict Mathurin fully healthy now. Benedict Mathurin wasn't in the Knicks series last year. He was a factor, and he's obviously improved as a player. But if you balance it all up, not to the point where the Knicks aren't stronger than they were last year over the Pacers, right? Randall replaced by Cat. OG's healthy now. Mikal Bridges replaces Dante as well. Hart, fully healthy. Mitchell Robinson, healthy now as well. And the Pacers are going to have to deal with that. And so I know a lot of people have this series, 50-50. It's tough to split. Both worthy, conference finalists. Indiana, yet to win a championship. We talk about the Knicks haven't won since 72, 73. Well, the Indiana Pacers are one of the three teams remaining that have never won a championship. And if they were to get to the conference finals for the second year and not advance, would be a massive, massive gut punch for Indiana as well. So they're coming in with confidence. Now, to respect both teams, I think both teams are capable of winning on the road. Indiana have shown they're fully capable of winning at MSG because they play a style where they just don't care. They get up and down. It could go either way. They could get hot, or they could just try to speed it up so much that they just, discombobulate. On the other side, the Knicks have the experience and the steel to go on the road and win in Indiana. They won 2 games in Boston. It don't get no harder than that. Going into games 1 and 2 in Boston, I think the Knicks can win games in Indiana as well. They showed it last year. Game 3, the Knicks were the better team for stretches in Game 3 last year. And then Andrew Nembhard hit that massive, massive shot that changed that game as well. So yeah, I think this series is going to come down to the beginning of the series. Like, who can adjust first? The Knicks have to win both of the first 2 games to give themselves the best chance, I feel. Because you don't want to go to Indiana with a split because Indiana have got confidence. We know that crowd is going to be hostile, probably the most hostile. I mean, game 3 and 4 in Detroit was great. Got to give Detroit's fans credit. That was turned up. Game 5 in Boston was turned up. That was tough when the crowd got into it. Indiana is going to be really tough, probably up there with the top as well. And look, you don't want to give them that confidence. That's what I'm saying. If the Knicks can turn it up the first 2 games and take care of business at Madison Square Garden and take a 2-0 lead, then all they'll have to do is win 2 games out of the remaining 5 to get to the NBA Finals. And that's great math. So we just have to treat these first 2 games like that's our ticket to the NBA Finals, ladies and gentlemen. Now time is now. Take care of business. First 2 games in front of a raucous crowd, and make Indiana doubt themselves. Get those 2 wins early. Even if they win the first game, man, no let up in the second game. One of the concerns about this Knicks team is once they get, some prosperity, they take their foot off the gas and they fall back to adversity. So they have to learn to prosper in this one. But I think they've really turned the corner. I think defeating 2 tough opponents now, we know that there's only one opponent in our way, standing in the way from an NBA Finals for the first time since 1999. And I think, man, Wednesday night, Friday night, the first 2 games at MSG are going to be some of the best playoff atmospheres you'll ever see, going up against these teams. David says Indiana took us to 7 last year and JB Hart OG were hurt. So I don't think Knicks in 5, maybe 6. Maybe sweep. David says Indy finally facing a team at full strength. Also, I'll call it now. This will be a good series for Payne. This is the kind of pace that suits him. Yeah, I agree, fam. That's what I'm saying. And look, we might not need to play Payne much, man, but he needs to play a little bit more than he did, I think, in the Boston series. Because look, things are going to be more open. Just to put this in perspective, guys. Indiana are a great team offensively, but they're by no means better than Boston offensively, and they're certainly not better than Boston defensively as well. And I mean that with all due respect. They're a great team. They've been one of the best teams in the East. But you're lying if you're saying that they're better than Boston offensively or better than them defensively. What Indiana are is they're great as a collective, They're strong if everyone's locked in and, everyone's executing, they're running the game plan, they're scheming well. And I think Rick Carlisle is a perfect coach for them, and he's got these guys all doing their jobs, Everyone's kind of a star in their role. And I think it's going to come down to, can the Knicks stars be stars, period, right? We don't want them just stars in their roles. The Knicks players just need to be stars. And then I think they can defeat Indiana in 6, So ultimately now, guys, my prediction, the New York Knicks will win this series and head to the NBA Finals in 6 games, right? I've thought about back and forth. I think there's just as much of a chance that it could be 5 or 7, right? It could go either way. If the Knicks start the series strong, they're capable, I think, of winning in 5. But I respect the Pacers too much to say, that it could go 5. I feel like it's 6, more than likely, especially if the Knicks win the first 2. If the Knicks split, if the Pacers can get one of the first 2 games at Madison Square Garden, this thing's going 7. That's the way I'll say it. If the Knicks can win their first 2 games, I think it could be over in 5, but more than likely 6. If the Pacers get one of the first 2, this thing's probably going 7, man. Because Pacers are tough, man. They've got confidence. It's going to be tough to win a game in Indiana. And I'd rather not rely on that. Take care of our home court. We've seen how special the crowd is now. We've seen how locked in the city is. We've seen what the Knicks defense can do after Game 6, destroying Boston, man. Snatching their hearts out and sending them back to Boston, man. Crying. And the Knicks need to have that attitude, man. They need to have that attitude, staying locked in. But yeah, I do think that the New York Knicks match up a lot better with Indiana. And I do think Indiana are going to like their matchups as well, you know. Both teams got to feel good about this. But if you're the Knicks, you're coming off a much tougher series. And whilst everyone's talking about Indiana being rested and, you know, they can play faster than the Knicks, don't discount the battle-tested, you know, experience that the Knicks gained from the Boston series. You know, it made us stronger after Detroit. And I think defeating Boston is going to make us even stronger. The fact that we can adjust, the fact that the Knicks can adapt to anything that any team can throw at them now. You know, Brunson turned the lights out at the Little Caesars Arena. He turned the lights out at the TD Garden. Right? He won't be afraid to turn the lights out at the Fieldhouse as well. And on the flip side, Halliburton obviously has the confidence of winning Game 7 at Madison Square Garden as well, despite the Knicks' injuries and all of those things. But obviously, this is a much tougher Knicks team, and I think the Pacers are really going to find that out, man. The Pacers are really going to find out that this is a lot more tougher, battle-tested Knicks team than last season. Because like I said, OG's healthy now. Karl Anthony Towns is a whole nother threat that Indiana didn't have to deal with last season. I mean, there was no Randall for the entire series. Not only that, but you're replacing no Randall with a Karl Anthony Towns, right? That's a whole nother headache for Indiana to manage, you know, and that's going to take Miles Turner, you know, that's going to turn his attention to the big bodega. So that's why that's my key matchup, guys. Cat, Miles Turner, that could decide the series. Big day, what's good? Transition D is the key. We need to get back on D. We are healthy this year, more versatile and more talented this year. If we play with focus of this Game 6, we have nothing to be worried about. Yeah, I agree, man. I like that. Game 6 is that's the blueprint now. You know, they're showing us. They just need to stay locked in. And by all accounts, these guys are super locked in because, you know, they went out, had a little celebration together, no drinking, but they went to a private function after the game, Game 6. All the starters were there. Some of the bench players were there. They were chilling. And a source says that you know, this team's really locked in. They like each other a lot, and they know what's at stake. So let's see how it plays out, fam. Let me just clean something up in the chat, man. Feel free to have your say, man. But one thing I don't take is disrespect, man. If you want to come into this platform, man, you be respectful. Man, I've been nothing but respectful. If you come in with disrespect, man, you out of here. Salute Vaughn, let's get it. David says, if we play like none other last night, no one beating us. I like that confidence. Vaughn says, Pacers play so fast. I think this bodes well for Josh Hart and Bridges. Yep. Yeah, I think the minutes thing and, you know, the Pacers playing fast, I think that's overstated. Man, this is playoff ball. Man, their legs are going to be tired as well. You know, this is playoff ball. Derast in 4 or 5. Salute. Salute. Yep. No Randall, no Mitcho, no OG. Yep. Look, both teams are stronger. Like I said, Benedict Mathurin is on the Pacers now. He wasn't with them. But the Knicks have basically got 3 or 4 additions. Mitch, Cat, Mikal Bridges. I mean, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough, man. But yeah, I like people talking their talk. Be confident, man. Just be respectful. If you're Indiana, I mean, how can you think you deserve to be favorites over the Knicks? You know, you might think that you can beat the Knicks. I understand that. But the Knicks won the regular season. They won more games. They lost Jalen Brunson for a month for 15 games. Actually, 17. Jalen Brunson missed 17 games, and the Knicks won 51 games. They would have won 58, 59, 60 if Brunson didn't miss a month. We still finished ahead of Indiana, right? Not only that, Indiana defeated Cleveland, which, oh no, the series could have gone different, man. If Garland, Evan Mobley and Hunter didn't get hurt. Space Ghost, we good. We here. Let's go. Mets, Knicks. Knicks Nation, I feel this. This is our time. Yep. Vaughn says Brunson is going to be outstanding. I feel it. Yeah, let's talk about that, Vaughn. I want to talk about the revenge factor as well, because it's going to be fresh in these guys' mind. You know, this is a case of Game 7 last year. You know, unfinished business. I think for this Knicks squad, and they've got stronger, and I think they'll be out for revenge against Tyrese. You know, hopping and skipping in Game 7 against an injured Knicks team. You know. And the second thing I really want to add, while still giving Indiana their credit, Game 7 was a historic shooting night. Right. You could look at that both ways. Historic shooting night. How often does a historic shooting night happen? That's why they call it historic. Right. So Indiana, they deserve their Game 7 win, but it was a historic shooting night against a non-full strength Knicks team. Let's fast forward a little bit to the Indiana Pacers lone win earlier this year. Crazy shooting night. Once again, the 2 wins Indiana have been crazy shooting nights. Right. Have you noticed a familiar theme? How many crazy shooting nights are they going to be able to have in a series? Back in this was November when Indiana got the win. Mathurin scored 38 points, 7 of 9 from downtown. That's filthy. Halliburton, 4 of 10 from downtown. How's he going to get those looks up with a Macau draped on him in playoff defense, being more physical? Miles Turner, 5 of 8 from downtown. How repeatable is that going to be? You see, all the wins that Indiana are getting have been historic shooting games, right? You bring them down to the mean, to the average, and it'll be a close game. The Knicks can win more ways. The Knicks can win different ways. Indiana need to run. They need to get open shooters, and that's how they win. But they don't have the isolation dependability that the New York Knicks have. Mikal Bridges can isolate, drop coverage as well. Brunson can close the deal. We're seeing what happens when Indiana can get tight. You know, they throw the ball around. Someone's going to have to chuck up a shot. It's just about the Knicks staying disciplined. The Knicks got to stay on their rotations and not miss an assignment. And we'll be Gucci. You know. Blender and Chirp says the Knicks won one more games, and we're still missing tons of players. Still are missing 2 centers. King says injuries aren't an excuse. Big Dave says Mitch coming back has been huge. Yep. Tay says I don't see how Indiana wins, honestly. I think if Indiana win, Tay, I think I could see it happening in 7. You know, their pathway to win is to definitely take one in the first 2. If they let the Knicks get the first 2, then obviously it's going to be such an uphill climb, fam. But yeah, I think the first game is the easiest to steal. You know, like I said, for both teams. The Knicks stole game in Boston. That helped them as well. The Knicks won game 1 against Detroit. Hopefully they can do it again. Johnny says, CT, how long does it take new players to gel before they play a solid 48 consistently? 90 games. Let's go. I think what we're seeing more consistently is because what's different about playoffs, guys, and it's the obvious statement, but you're playing the same team. You can lock in. Players can look at their assignment and focus. Regular season, the reason why it's basically whack in some ways, and I mean that respectfully. Players, their minds are scattered, man. You don't know who you're playing next. You're in a hotel one night. Next night, you're boarding a plane to Charlotte. Next night, you're in Portland, up against different dudes coming at you. Then there might be a back-to-back where you have to be on national TV going up against LeBron. I mean, regular season is just basically it's a circus. Playoff basketball is more true of the real thing. Players' abilities versus the other players, because you get days off between each game. They know where they're at, where their partners are at. Where they could get their personal business in. They can sort out their affairs. Things are more balanced. When you're in the regular season, man, you just don't know what's happening. Players get hot. One night, LaMelo Ball catches fire. Next night, you're playing a tanking team. It's crazy. So I think we're starting to see this Knicks team be more consistent because, they're locked in. They're together now. Basically 2/3 of the NBA, more than that, are in Cancun fishing. And these guys know now that they're so close. They're at a place now where they're like, you can count the wins on both hands, literally, man. This thing here, this could be 3 times NBA champions with 8 more wins, fam. With 8 more wins, they could literally cross the things down with their fingers now before they can put a ring on it, on this thing. And it goes both sides, man. You see how open it is. When we look at the Knicks are the only team remaining to win a chip. Let me bring this up on the big screen. Shout out everyone in the chat. Smash that like button. NBA conference finals are here. I'll give you my thoughts on the other series coming up now, but just in a minute. The Knicks are the only team with a chip. 73. Pacers never. Minnesota never. Oklahoma never. Let's hope that continues, fam. How sweet it is if it's the New York Knicks with their 3rd chip. Indiana stay never. Minnesota stay never. And Oklahoma, I don't want them to see them win a chip either, fam. I'm rooting for Minnesota. Not just because I think the Knicks have a better chance. Even if the Knicks weren't in the playoffs anymore, I'd be rooting for hell like Minnesota, because I hate Oklahoma City, man. I hate Oklahoma City Thunder. I was rooting for the Denver Nuggets earlier today. Game 7, man, they ran out of gas. They just didn't have anything left. Aaron Gordon, man, he was like OG from last year. But credit to Oklahoma. They've had a great season, and they deserve to be where they are, man. But I hope Minnesota can send them packing, man. And I think that's going to be a hell of a series. I think the inexperience of Oklahoma is still a worry. And if you're looking at some of the veterans on Minnesota, they have to show up. But you look at the way Randall's playing. You look at Ant-Man, 2nd year in a row in the Western Conference Finals. He's got the experience. I think when push comes to shove, Ant-Man can exert his authority on the game more than any other player. Because Shea's basically a twig. He'll get those foul calls, but he's a twig. Ant-Man can be physical and get to the paint and make sure he can get foul calls as well. So can Randall as well. I think Minnesota need to be really physical in that series, man. I hope Julius Randle pummels Isaiah Hartenstein, man. I hope he goes at him as well. And I love to see Dante get loose as well. And I love to see an NBA Finals on the right bracket, Minnesota versus the New York Knicks, man. It would be one of the biggest storylines that NBA has ever produced, right? Blockbuster trade on the eve of the season, man. Minnesota against Cat and the New York Knicks for the finals, but 4 more wins away. I'm excited. Uh, this is part 1 of our preview, by the way. Part 2 is going to be more assessing the storylines going into the series. We're going to hear from the Knicks in practice tomorrow. I think the Knicks will be available to the media, and we'll start to break down, more of the storylines from the Knicks Indiana series and so forth. We've still got 3 more days. I think the rest has been great for everybody. It's kind of unfortunate for the West, due to the fact that the NBA didn't know if the Boston series, Knicks series was going to go 7. That bought the Knicks more time, and they had to schedule the Western Conference series earlier. So that's going to tip off on Tuesday, while the Eastern Conference final starts Wednesday. So those 4 days have been key. DeRoss, ECF to the Wolves, to the parade. Let's get it. I think that'd be a great matchup. David says, man, CT Joker needs help out there. Respect for Gordon. Yeah, it's tough. It just goes to show, David, about home court, I feel like the crowd can just get you over the line, Let's say that today's game was in Denver. That could have been enough to get the Joker over the line, You just need that push. But playing in Oklahoma on the road, Game 7, your legs are already gone. You just need something, and the crowd was enough to. Well, really, Oklahoma didn't really need the added boost, but they were phenomenal, blowing out the Nuggets, man, in the second half. But it sucks to lose a Game 7, man. We've been here before, and let's hope that it never happens again. But that's why we love the sport so much, because best of 7s. It's basically, it decides who is the strongest team, will versus skill as well. Stanley says, I can't see Pascal going off on OG. Deuce always has problems with McConnell. The Pacers bench is deep. Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think that sums that up quite well. I think Pascal had success Game 7 against Precious. Yeah, the Knicks got a lot of film. By the way, the Knicks have assistant coaches that have been assigned to cover Indiana for a while now, all of the playoffs, So basically what happens is when the playoffs commence, each of the Knicks assistant coaches get assigned various teams to scout and cover and watch the games and break down the strengths, weaknesses, all of that. So the Knicks are fully up to understanding what Indiana is all about. They've had their assistant coaches covering them. Knicks assistant coaches have been watching Indiana back since round 1, round 2, and now this one. And then obviously Tibbs is very, very familiar with most of these guys, going back since the semi-finals last year. What is a little bit of a monkey wrench is that we only played these teams 3 times, It would have been ideal if this was a 4-game series earlier in the regular season, so that we could get a bit more of a feel. But it could work for us. Maybe Indiana underestimating some of the things the Knicks can throw at them. Hopefully, let them do that. But knowing Rick Carlisle, he's always panicking, he's always stressing, he's always complaining that the NBA wants the small market, disadvantaged. All of that, man. Nimar, what's good? Knicks in 6 or Knicks in 5? Covering a lot of bases there. I like that. Like I said, I'll be more surprised if it ends in 5. This thing is going to go 6 or 7, I think, in my opinion. I just don't know how much the Knicks have in the tank to come out locked in, every single night. We've seen a lot of lapses for all of the great things the Knicks have done. They've had some crazy lapses, man. Game 3 was disgraceful at MSG, right? You had the boost of being up 2-0, headed back to a raucous Madison Square Garden, and the Knicks laid an egg. Hopefully they've learnt from that mentally, but they didn't come out ready. Then they triumphed Game 4, an amazing win, which felt like the series win, but it wasn't. Then they came out in Game 5 and laid another egg at Boston. So if you're a good team, you can get 2 games off the Knicks. It's very possible. Now, hopefully we've turned the corner in terms of mentally understanding that, you can't take any game off. You've got to be locked in, because 4 games you went to most of these players' first NBA finals, man. OG wasn't a factor, playing with the Raptors, but was with the squad and did win a ring with the Toronto Raptors squad, but was injured during that playoff run. But he still has the ring, the experience. Mikal Bridges has played in an NBA final, so he's built for this. His game has gone to that next level since the playoffs. Cameron Payne has the experience of the NBA finals as well. Cat, JB, experience in the conference finals. And I believe this is Josh Hart's first conference finals, fam, in his career. Coming into the league right after the Lakers had Kobe and all of that. This will be Mitchell Robinson's first conference finals, Deuce McBride's first as well. I think Landry Shamet has been to a conference finals with the Clippers, I think. And of course, how could I forget? PJ Tucker has won a ring as well with the Milwaukee Bucks, fam. Brought a lot of things to the table, has PJ Tucker. I think he's really brought that stability mentally, experience, getting into these guys' faces, telling them what's up, telling them what they have to do. I think that really helps a lot. And we are seeing a more locked-in Knicks team now. The Knicks haven't lost back-to-back games in the playoffs as well. So that's tangible. If you're a Pacers fan, or if you're someone that thinks, the Pacers should win this series, the Knicks don't have a chance, etc., etc., well, numbers don't lie. The Knicks have home court in this series, and they have not lost back-to-back games in all of the playoffs. So for the Knicks to lose this series, they'll have to lose back-to-back games in this series. Otherwise, it'll go according to script. It'll go according to script. It'll be game 1, it'll be game 3, it'll be game 5, and it'll be game 7. So the Knicks haven't lost back-to-back games. That's tangible, right? That something's going to have to break for the Knicks to lose this series. They're capable of losing it, but like I said, every time they've lost a game, they've bounced back. That's something that's happened all season as well. Hey, I don't particularly like game 7s, but if the Knicks can pull it out, if it goes according to script, and the Knicks just win in 7, I mean, let's have ourselves a party, man. Like 1999 vibes all over. Shout out to you guys, man. Everyone deserves this because it's been so long. But we have a squad now, We have a squad that we believe in, and they have the pieces to get it done. Some years you need a bit of luck. Some years you just, you get the right matchups, you take advantage, and you get it done, man. Last year, Boston had a lot of things go their way, man. They had Dallas in the finals. They had a banged up other teams, Miami, as well. Indiana, they got over the hump. But the storyline's coming in. Someone is going to be a new champion, right? The Knicks are the only franchise left that have won a chip. So it'll be the first championship for one of these other organizations, but for their star player, it's going to be the first championship ring for Shea, Tyrese, Ant-Man, and hopefully Jalen Brunson. Man, let's keep this thing rolling, baby. It's going to be a quick series. Like I said, there's no 2 days rest. It's all 1 day break. Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and if needed, Monday for a game. Something tells me this isn't going to go 7 though, fam. Something tells me this series will be over sooner. Teams want to get after each other quick. 4 days rest to get at it and chop all of this up, fam. And like I said, we'll be chopping it up a lot more. Part 2 of the preview will be coming, fam. On let's hit that on Tuesday night. Right, the day before the game. Tuesday night, I'll be live. Part 2 of the preview. But my prediction is Knicks in 6. Key matchup of the series, Cat versus Miles Turner. X factor for the New York Knicks, Mikal Bridges and Andrew Nembhard for the Indiana Pacemakers. And the wild card for the New York Knicks is Cameron Payne. Right, he might be out of the rotation. The Knicks might call on someone else. They might play 7. But if Cam Payne plays, he could be a spark, you know, in this one, ladies and gentlemen. Orange and blue skies, let's get it. Tuesday night. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and bless up. Have a great night.